Good evening and welcome to our bi-weekly program. Your questions, Dr. Lamba's response, and today is episode 7. The first question that I have is from Geeta, and Geeta belongs to Vancouver. Geeta Singh writes, Malala, Bernie Sanders, Ilhana Omar, and Rashid Talib are critical of India as far as Kashmir is concerned. Malala especially is talking about the outrage and the closing of the schools that the children education is suffering. But she is ignoring what's happening in Pakistan, where the schools have been closed and the students are not being taught, and the principal has been arrested. Well, Geeta, as far as the information about the principal's arrest is concerned, there is no confirmation. As for the comments of Malala, Bernie Sanders, Ilham Omar, and Talib are concerned, they fall in different categories. Malala is a girl from Pakistan, and her dream is to be the Prime Minister of Pakistan. That was the whole purpose of the drama being enacted, giving Malala that wide universal publicity, and then later on give her the Nobel Prize. There are reports that she is a CIA creature, and Obama wanted to promote her so that CIA could later on put her in power in Pakistan. She would have been a protege of CIA, the way Zia was for some time, the way Benazir was for some time. So naturally, she has to say and make statements which are acceptable to Pakistani people. If she praises India, then the Pakistanis are not going to tolerate her and accept her as Prime Minister. And her aim is to become Prime Minister after she crosses the age of 30. She is 22 now. So 10 years from now, she would be the youngest Prime Minister of Pakistan. And she is actually building up a base. So it's absolutely selfish of her. And nothing wrong with that. She has a plan charted out. Bernie Sanders is criticizing India not because he loves the Indians or the Muslims or anybody, or he hates Indians. No. He is doing so because Trump is the person who is close to Modi. So anything to beat Trump is a good arsenal for Bernie Sanders. Now, as far as Omar and Talib are concerned, they are out and out Muslim fundamentalists. As a matter of fact, if you are aware, the Talib is supposed to have met a real brother, and Omar was also a refugee, and both of them are always supporting Muslim fundamentalists, Hamas, Al-Qaeda, and are critical of anything which goes against them. So much so that Omar had stated about 9/11, well, some people did something. Now that horrible experience that America had, that beginning of terrorism in USA and the world on 9/11 was dismissed by her in one statement. Something happened somewhere, as if it was a minor case of a bicycle banging against a hedge and whatnot. So that being so, when she says something like that, that doesn't surprise me and should not surprise you. All of them have their agenda. And the agenda is to ensure Trump is defeated. They wouldn't shed a single tear if they were really in favor of Muslims. Why has Bernie, why has Omar, why has Rashid Talib or even Malala not said a single word against China, who have imprisoned over 1 million Muslims? They're quiet over there because they're not concerned with the Muslims. They just need to interfere in the affairs of others, pose as guardians of and custodians. It's just like that, what Elizabeth May said, we have to save the world. Who the hell appointed her to save the world? And this is what Omar is doing. This is what Rashida is doing, Talib and Bernie are doing. They are, in fact, looking after their own interest and not the interest of Kashmiris, India, Pakistan. Is that okay, Geeta? But as far as the principal in Pakistan being arrested, there is no confirmation. Yes, there have been riots. A case has been registered against him for blasphemy. According to the reports, he had insulted Prophet. And this complaint was made by a student who was punished for not working. But then that's the way things happen. Second question is by Sandeep Bhargava. He's from Oakville. He says that Indian finance minister has said that Ola and Uber have reduced the car demand and that's why it's suffering. He had also asked my opinion about one language, one nation. Well, Sandeep, your question, the second part I'll take first, one language, one nation. Today morning in my live comments, I had discussed this issue in detail and I had said that this policy is absolutely wrong, erroneous, and harmful for India. And for the complete analysis, I suggest you tune in and listen to what I said in the morning. I don't want to repeat it. Regarding Sitaraman's statement that Ola and Uber have become popular and the demand for cars has decreased. Well, isn't that correct? When the transport is available easily at call, then you would not like to own the private vehicles. This is a fact. Have you seen people using personal transport in Toronto even? Or in Singapore? Because there the public transport is easily available. Now, Ola and Uber are available at your place. You give a call and they are there. You don't have to spend money on parking. You don't have to maintain a car. You don't have to invest in a car where the depreciation levels are very high. You don't have to pay the licenses. You don't have to pay the road taxes in India. So naturally, you don't want to own it until you are just buying it for show. So there is not much to condemn Nirmala Sitharaman. As a matter of fact, this was a statement as a part of the larger statement. And she is right. When the infrastructure is better, when the public transport is easily available and cheaply available, or even not, if not cheap, say competitively available, you don't want to unnecessarily spend money. And secondly, people are waking up to the need of controlling pollution. Right or wrong, this is what they think. So the reality is that what she said is correct to a great extent, and the opposition parties want to find out some excuse or the other to condemn the government, which is not an absolutely acceptable thing. Because the reality is, there's always some truth in some statements, but to say that the complete reduction or complete downgrading is because of these activities. Even that is not correct. They have contributed significantly, but not entirely. The next question is from Sunil Wang, and Sunil is from Prescott, Toronto, and he asks, do you believe in astrology and do you think astrology is correct? Well, this is something, it's a personal question, but then I don't mind telling you. I am a rationalist. And all this talk of stars and the planets inspecting me doesn't appeal to me. A Jupiter or a Mars or a moon, yes, they impact human life, but they don't impact me personally. They impact me the same way as they impact the other people. If the heavy tide comes, the high tide comes, then I'm on the beach. I am as likely to face the tidal wave as anybody else is who is not of my date of birth, whose sign is different than mine is. So to say that X, Y, Z, and then divide the whole word into 12 parts, and then say, well, these are the people who will be affected by this, and these are the people who will be affected by that, is sheer nonsense. I don't want to call it hypocrisy. It's a profession for some people. They're welcome to have it. Some people's profession is cheating. They're welcome to have it. If the law is there to punish them, they'll be punished. But if you ask my opinion, it's just chicanery, it's sham, it's hypocrisy. And it's a plain exploitation of the fears of the people. Otherwise, as far as astrology and the planetary impact is concerned, no. But one thing more. I discussed on Saturday how the human world and the planetary and the vegetation is connected. And I had also said that if you have the capability, you can stand on the beach and concentrate on that and say, this shall be the last wave, and oceans shall listen to you. Which I discussed on Friday. And I also said, then when you go to a plant to pluck a flower, the plant understands that danger is there. They can understand. Plants can understand, oceans, rivers, everything can understand. So there's a connectivity. But connectivity does not mean influence. And the connectivity does not depend on one person. It is totality. So as I said earlier, I am as amenable under the planetary impact or the gravitation force. The gravitation force is there. It will be there for everybody, not for X, Y, and Z. It cannot change. That way, astrology, you can call it what you want, but to say that it is as any real value, well, is to live in a dreamland, la la land. And I don't mind if you want to live in that. And the last question is from Surjit Sundaraj Vellore. She says, what was the role of Maharaja Ranjit Singh and how did he play a significant role? Well, let's not forget, that was the period when the whole world was divided basically on the basis of religion. I would say he was a real secular king whose ministers were Dogras, Muslims, Hindus, whose army generals were French, Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims. He did not differentiate. That was his achievement. Secondly, he was a great administrator. And he had vision. So his secular, despite being a Sikh, he decorated and gave gold to the temples and to the mosques. For the first time, an Indian state had a full-fledged artillery force. But to say that he was the greatest, no. He made two strong errors. If he had been imaginative enough, he should have tied up with Marathas, and the English would have been thrown out of the country much sooner. He did not do that. He was satisfied when he signed the agreement with the Governor General William Bentinck, saying that he will not cross the Satluj. Satluj was the boundary. So all the parts of India, which along with the Maratha, he could have liberated, he failed to do so. Secondly, he was a credulous person. He believed what people told him, and that's why he lost a general like Hari Singh Nalwa, because he could not differentiate between loyalists and the traitors. He was not a good judge, very good judge of the people. He was a very good judge of the people insofar as selection was concerned. But after that, he could be misled. That's why he didn't have very good cordial relations even with his son. And chasing the finest was never given the rights that secondly, possibly not aware, most of the people are not aware. The Tsar, the ruler of Russia, sent him a message. And that message came from Napoleon. It was that the three of them meet, Napoleon, Tsar, and Rashid.